Hello, and my name is Francis Ejike Umesiri. I joined the Well here last summer while we were having our worship outside. I'm glad and thankful to be here, and I want to thank you all for just the welcome and the hospitality for myself and my family. And I want to thank Pastor Jerry and all of the leadership here for just allowing me to be part of this and share with you briefly. And the thought I want to share with you today is just a very simple one, the idea that God knows us deeply and that he wants us in a way to emulate him in that because he's our Father. Someone says that which is similar brings comfort. But also in the same way, that which is very different can bring discomfort. But it's also in our differences that our leadership comes and shines through. The ability to recognize difference in ourselves, in one another, in the places where we are, in the times and seasons, as a matter of fact. All of those ability to recognize those differences make a huge difference in who we become and how we help others become who God is calling them to be. And that's why these three short stories that I wanted to share with you, I feel like brings out that ability of God to look at a group and see all of the individual differences and affirm them and encourage those. So the first example here is the story of Hagar, Sarah's maid. And that, I think, is Genesis chapter 16. Abraham had gone into Egypt and, because of the famine in Canaan, now they came back with Sarah, Hagar, the maid. And after many years of waiting for this child that God promised them, Sarah said, well, why don't you go into the maid and have a child, since it looks like I am barren and this is not going to happen. Well, Abraham did, and Hagar had a child. And with the moment she became pregnant, you know the story, she began to despise her mistress, Sarai. And Sarai didn't take that easily. Because it amplified an area of insecurity in her life. You think about it. Hagar becoming pregnant really showed that it was Sarah who had a problem. She was the one who was barren, really. And Hagar mocking her and despising her just brought that insecurity to the fore. And so in her desperation and anger, Sarai began to mistreat her. And so Hagar ran away. But remember, she was pregnant, barely a teenager, and running away all alone. She wasn't part of the covenant, Abrahamic covenant, but she was still God's creation. And so God looked at her and sent an angel to meet her in the wilderness. And God said, Hagar, the maid of Sarai, where are you going and where are you coming from? Just the way God addressed her speaks a lot to the nature of God. God called her by name. God identified her situation. It wasn't like God wasn't aware. And God said, go back to your mistress and submit to her mistreatment. That sounds very unusual. But in the midst of that, Hagar recognized something that had just happened. So she turned in her awe and worshiped to God and said, you are God who sees me. And today I see you too. I surrender. I worship you. And so God chose to see the difference in Hagar, even though she was not part of the covenant, even though she was just an Egyptian maid, even though, even in this instance, it looked like she was at fault, perhaps incidental to the whole covenant and the whole story of Jesus through Abraham lineage. Yet, God paid attention to her affirmed who she was, and blessed her in spite of all. And so that's one example. It turns out that really our ability to notice difference is important. And it's not just about differences in big issues like, immigrant versus native borns or things like that. It's differences in every area of life, right? Differences, you can be in a group, and maybe in a small group or a church group like ours. Some are a bit more talkative than others, and some maybe are more quiet and just observe and listen, right? It takes a leader to recognize those differences in the house. It takes leadership to affirm those differences, because the tendency is that we tend to gravitate to those who are like us because it gives us comfort. And there's a level of discomfort that comes from what is a little different. And so God showed us here, using Hagar's example, that he recognizes those minor differences. But another one example is Jesus and the woman at the Jacob's well, right? The Samaritan woman. Yeah, so here Jesus and his disciples, it was about 12 o'clock in the afternoon. They were hungry, so he sends the disciples to go out and eat, to buy the food. And then he was there waiting for them by the well. Obviously, perhaps thirsty, really. And then this woman comes from Samaria to fetch water from the well. Jesus said, please give me some water to drink. And the woman was shocked. Shocked because you know the story, this difference between the Samaritans and the Jews, the northern and the southern kingdoms of Israel. And she said, how is it that you, being a Jew, is asking water from me, a Samaritan? And not just a Samaritan, a woman. You're a man and you're engaging with me. Something must be different about you. But Jesus recognized her difference. There is something about this woman. First of all, she's different, a Samaritan. She's a woman. She's coming to draw water by herself. But Jesus looked beyond all of that, and after they have had some conversation back and forth, Jesus spoke to her and said, go and bring your husband and come back. Now, Jesus did that deliberately because he knows her. He has seen her uniqueness. He has seen her struggles. Deep down in her heart, there is an area of her life that needed to be touched, that all the externalities have covered up. Well, she said, you were right. I don't have a husband, And Jesus said, that's true. You've had 5 husbands, and the person you are living with right now is not even your husband. What does that mean? It just simply means, as I read that Jesus was willing to go out of his comfort level, because he was still a Jew, by speaking to someone who is from Samaria, a woman, and engaging her, but also trying to celebrate the difference in her life, and from that reach her and be a blessing and touch her life. And the last story I want to share there will be briefly the story of Zacchaeus, right? Zacchaeus was wealthy, but he was also getting his wealth from a means that other people in the community didn't like, yeah? He was a chief tax collector. You know the story. They were under the Roman Empire rule, and that means they didn't want to pay this tax. It was mostly going to the Roman government. But their people who were officers are the one collecting this, and they had their own bits to it, and basically they oppressed the people. And so the people just hated all of these tax collectors, and Zacchaeus was one of those. That was something that was different about him. But when Jesus was passing by on this day, everyone didn't see something else happening to Zacchaeus, that there was a change happening in this man's life. That yes, he's had a story that has defined him all these years, but that something is changing right now in this season in his life. And so he tried to see Jesus. The crowd was too much because he was a short man. And then he ran ahead and climbed a tree. And when Jesus got there, Jesus recognized that difference in this man. The one who could climb up, this maybe middle-aged man or even older man who could climb a tree just to see Jesus. Jesus saw a difference in this man. And Jesus said, come down. Today I will be with you as a guest in your house. So Jesus tells us all over the scripture that he pays attention to individuals. You remember the story when they were given offerings, right? And Jesus sat there watching. He pays attention to individuals, especially to differences, to people he thinks may be on the outside. And he sees this one widow dropping her offering. Everyone was celebrating all of the big offering, but Jesus said, there's something different about this woman. Her difference is that she's given out of her penury, out of a determination to be part of what was going on. It didn't look like a lot. It didn't mean a lot, really. But Jesus saw that. He celebrated her. And today we talk about that. So as a roundup, what does that mean really for us as leaders? For me, the first thing I think it suggests is, at least encouragement for me, is to take away the label, right? And I think Jesus has demonstrated that to us. The labels we put on ourselves. The first thing is for me to take that off so that then at least I can see myself and my difference. To take away that label from other people. So also they can be truly who they are in their uniqueness. And those labels are not always bad. They can be good or bad. I'll give you an example. A good label is, say, you were a cheerleader in high school, right? You know, or you are the star of your football team in high school. That's a good label. You know, it's probably defined, you know, how you grew up, you were part of the in-group, everything. But at 42, probably that's a label we need to reevaluate. If that is still continuing to define who you are and how you see yourself, it may not allow you to really discover your distinctive differences and celebrate those, right? Well, it may be bad labels, right? Bad labels about maybe how I look, or how my nose look, how my hair look, whatever those bad labels are. I think that it's helpful when I remove those, then I can allow God's light to shine in my heart. And then I can see my unique differences and celebrate those, and then allow others to thrive in their difference. The second thing for me then would be, as part of that, a decision to allow others, like Jesus is doing, to go out of my way, to go out of our way to affirm and see differences in other people. Difference is strength. As a teacher, I was trained right from early part of my training to always pay attention to individual differences in a classroom, right, in the class. When you're receiving those early training, it appears like negative, like as if pay attention to the weaker students or the students who are struggling. But the more I grew up, I realized, no, this difference is the strength. Knowing how each student learns, it's what you foster that to make them excellent in that area and become the best. See, Walmart, I recently have just been reading Made in America, Sam Walton, Walmart. I've read it just over again. And just recognizing his difference with the discount model of merchandise early enough, when he was not popular, when he was just beginning, and stayed with that. Just recognizing his difference in the small town where he and his family made a choice to live. That there is something unique in this small town America that they can actually support an industry. And he stayed with that. Today, Walmart is what it is because Sam Walton recognized his unique difference and stayed with that. I mean, look at any industry. Yes, McDonald's doesn't try to be the same as Burger King. Amazon is not trying to be Walmart, right? They stay in their difference, celebrate those differences, recognize them, promote them, and that makes them who they are. And so the decision to look out for difference in one another and affirm that. The final one is just the decision then to share ourselves with one another. Because if there are differences, it takes effort then to reach out, to communicate those differences, and to encourage each other. And I hope that encourages you. It cuts across even husband and wife. Yeah, we in relationship, friends. It doesn't matter. We get attracted to people who are a little different than we are. If you think about marriage, for example, we get attracted to spouses that complement us. That's probably why 1 + 1 is 2, right? Because if you marry somebody who has all the qualities you have, then you are 2 different people instead of 1. But here's the thing. The moment that friendship grows, or the moment that marriage relationship grows, after the initial phase of honeymoon in that friendship or relationship, whatever it is, then we begin to notice those differences. The differences that attracted us, the differences that complemented who we are and who we're designed to be, become something we fight, we resist. And if we're not careful, that breaks things at that point. But recognizing again that those differences are important, that they make us who we are uniquely, and celebrating them and going out of our way to share ourselves, even bring the fullness of ourselves in our differences, and allow the other person to bring the fullness of who they are in their difference. I think that makes us the best that God wants us to be as a community. Thank you for allowing me this brief moment to share with you, and I hope that has been an encouragement. Thank you.